Deep Dive Film School makes no claim of ownership of the film footage used in this episode. The film footage is owned entirely by the copyright holders. Also, we're going to spoil the hell out of this movie, so this is your warning. Welcome to Deep Dive Film School!
This week, I'm going to get into all 25 movies that I saw at Sundance this year. Let's get into it.
Let's dive on in. All right, everybody, I am Adam Sherlock.
And I'm Adam Palcher.
And what are we going to do this week, Palcher?
Sundance! Woo!
So if you like what you see/hear, please like and subscribe. You can find us in all the spaces and places that people find good media. That little Sundance thing that Palcher did is kind of, I'd say that's tradition. We've been reviewing Sundance since we've done this show for 13 years, right? Mm-hmm. But you've been going to Sundance for how long?
I think I'm in my 22nd year, something like that.
22
cool.
years. And this is the
crazy.
first time that you weren't up there spending all that money on the food and freezing your butt off in line.
No doubt. It was a wild year, obviously, but it was all digital. There's definitely some pros and cons to it. Pros being, I don't have to drive up there. I don't have to walk sludge through the snow. I don't have to catch a bus and pay $20 for a burrito. That's kind of okay. Like stuff like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's also part of it, and I love that part. The biggest thing to me was the Q&As I wasn't nearly as engaged with something like that because most of the time I was watching a recording. I couldn't really engage and feel as part of it, but they did a great job with the user experience and just the whole way they did it online. I thought they did a hell of a job, especially last minute, like pivot. I guess it wasn't last minute. They knew about that. It was going to be that way, but it was an interesting fest, and the convenience of watching it in my bed or whatever, just on TV at home was awesome. I got to see probably about 5 or 6 more movies this year that I wouldn't have seen just because of time or whatever.
Sure, but the only downside is, like, it's not like, if you get up from your bed to go pee, it's not like in the hallway on the way to your bathroom, you're like, it's Stanley Tucci! Like, that experience that happens at Sundance where you're, like, going out to hail a cab or, like, walking down to the coffee shop and all of a sudden you're like, oh, Susan Sarandon! Like, that's not happening in your house.
I didn't get to piss next to Stanley Tucci in my house, unfortunately.
I mean, that is most people's best part about Sundance.
Hell yeah, I would love to meet Stanley Tucci. Even if he's got his dick in his hand.
Especially if he has his dick in his hand. Let's be fair.
Cool. Well, let's get into it. Like I said, I think I technically saw 26 movies. There's one in there that was kind of, I'm sure, blah, that I'm forgetting about here. But I did list most of them. I'm not going to spend a ton of time, but I'm going to try and give everyone a reference here, whether it's a poster or a screenshot, or just like something from the trailer, stuff like that, things that have been picked up and whatnot. There's some ones that I liked. I'm not necessarily going to rank them like I have in past years. I'm just kind of going to go through everything I've seen. I guess there's some ranking here. I'll start with I'm going to kind of put it in two sections here. I'm going to do dramas and then I'll do documentaries. There's not a ton of comedy at Sundance. There is sometimes, but it's either like off the wall comedy that's like in the next section, which the next section for me is kind of a weird limbo because I'm someone who preaches originality, and then I get into this festival where it's really about genre bending and getting weird and crazy.
Right.
And a lot of the times it doesn't hit with me, and the ones I saw this year were fine, but like still like not quite my bag. So I definitely try and see all the dramatic competition things. There's always a handful of docs that draw me in. We start with the dramas. This was probably the third movie I saw. It was the second day of the festival. It's the one that ended up sweeping the festival. It is Coda, directed by Sean Hayter, and she. This is a Sundance. It's one of those crowd pleasers, right? And Coda stands for Children of Deaf Adults. And it's all about the main character is, I forgot her name, but she's in the show Lock and Key on Netflix. She plays the daughter in that. and she plays the daughter in this, and her whole family is deaf except for her. She's got this awesome passion and talent for music, and her family doesn't understand music because they can't hear it. They don't really get why she's into it. She's basically been their translator. They're fishermen on the coast, and they're trying to survive. But just the whole production, the story with her family. This is a remake of, I think it's a French movie that came out about a decade or so ago. And man, it was so lovely. And again, just a crowd pleaser. One of those great comedy dramas. And they really, there's a lot of sign language in the movie. The whole cast and crew were hearing impaired. The actors that were deaf were actually deaf. And so like just quite an experience. And the Q&A was just super engaging. I know one of our close friends on the podcast, Kelly Simpson, who was on previously, who wasn't able to make it, but I know she went to Sundance and wrote us an email, and she mentioned in her email that it was, liked it a lot, classic Sundance movie, totally understand why it swept, tons of respect on how they made it with the making of deaf talent and deaf roles, and again, the Q&A was super engaging and fun. That was one of the Q&As I was really happy I watched, because it was so engaging and really interesting to see how everyone on set had to adjust to the hearing impaired, and just putting people in that kind of forced creativity is awesome. And the amount of stuff, and they're all joking and they're funny and they're making dick jokes with sign language and stuff like that. And so like
that's always going to be a big seller with you.
I mean, come on, dick and fart jokes, of course. But no, this is But what I'm saying is they weren't afraid to engage the comedy and really show people like what it feels like to maybe be this person and this translator, but also what it's like to be just, no one's going to take me seriously because they can't communicate with me, and there's a huge barrier here that we need to break through. And it was just a lovely movie, and I was on high when I saw it.
Just from the premise, I really love the idea of what a fantastic object lesson of the alienation of being a teenager, to be like, I don't know, it's like what every teenager feels like in the sort of crux of the thing they want to do, and the way that butts up against their parents not understanding, but taken to the nth degree, where it's literally they cannot understand the passion you have. They actually can't hear it, right? Versus like being into punk and have your parents being like, "What's that noise?" It's like literally they can't understand it. I love that. That's a fantastic kind of sweep for that idea.
Yeah, it'll get picked up if it has. I think it has already. It's going to be, I think, on Apple TV Plus. So definitely look out for it. Amazing movie. Mary Matlin was her mom and was awesome. And
I figured she had to show up because she is one of our staples when it comes to sort of really fantastic actors who are hearing impaired. Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Let me go into the next one here. This one was one that totally floored me. Saw it, I think, actually right after Coda, and it is the movie Flea. This was one of Kelly's, and was one of her tops by far. But this is a kind of an animated documentary. So I guess
this is
I
like
should have put this in
FLEA, like a flea.
Flee, like I'm fleeing the country.
Okay.
This is an animated documentary along the lines of maybe Walking with Bashir, kind of.
Okay.
And this is an immigrant story, and the director Jonas Ponar Rasmussen, had been friends with this guy for 25 years, and he was really never talked about his past. And one day, Rashid Atuganov, I hope I said that right, Atuganov, he recorded the story and him telling it, and they kind of animate everything around his story, a la Waltz with Bashir. And so, but man, what a powerful story, the amount of stuff that he went through to get to America, to just be this guy that he is now, who is gay, and he's an immigrant from Afghanistan. That's obviously another important part of this, but all of this together was just like, holy crap. Like, it was just a beautiful thing. I probably, maybe now that I think about this, should have put this in the docs because this is technically a documentary, but along the lines of something like Waltz with Bashir, highly recommend this one when you see it come out.
That's great.
Next up on the list is Rebecca Hall. Do you know Rebecca Hall? She is.
I love Rebecca Hall.
I'm not a huge fan of her as an actress.
Really?
Yeah, like she's in The Prestige and a handful of things, and for some reason I just always felt like you could tell she was acting, like
Oh,
it was
really?
just a little bit,
She's in the Amazon series Tales from the Loop. She's really great in that. I've always really liked her.
Yeah, I don't necessarily hate her or anything, but it wasn't someone that I would be like, saw them in a movie and be like, oh, she's in it. So I wasn't sure what going into this, but she actually directed this movie, and it's got the wonderful, wonderful Tessa Thompson, who anything she's in, I try and watch because she's amazing. And the movie is called Passing, and this movie is outstanding. And it's about, I think it's 1930s Harlem, and there's a thing called passing, and it's when African American ladies go in and
can pass for being white.
Yeah, and they're light skinned enough, and they put on enough makeup to the point where they get white husbands they don't even know they're black. And it's this fascinating, you're automatically in contrast there, right? Like there's so much character self-realization that has to happen to get to that point, and how people feel about it, what it says about you and your race, and then you start hanging out with this other person who knows what you're doing, and how do they take it as an offense to them. Lots of stuff happens. This movie is also shot in black and white, which is a beautiful touch, and it looks amazing. So I highly recommend this one. This was probably one of my favorites of the fest.
What a weird... I mean, not to take anything away from Rebecca Hall, but in my mind, I'm like, what a weird choice. Did she directed it? She didn't write it, though.
No, it's based off a book that was written back in the 1900s. I think it was like 1917 or something like that the original book was written.
A white British actress
yeah,
directing a movie about black women in Harlem passing for white seems like so odd to me.
I think she...
Do you know what I mean, though? Just like in thinking about representation and experience, and I don't know, it just seems like kind of out of left field.
She's also a woman director. She got Ruth Negga and Tessa Thompson to play these people and sign off on that. I think that's
sure. It seems kind of... If I was gun to my head for somebody to be like, what kind of a movie is Rebecca Hall going to direct this next year? I'm like, period piece Victorian movie. Like, I would never be like...
No. It's based off of source material that was written a long time ago. That
super interesting. Yeah,
it's fascinating. The movie is absolutely excellent. What a debut for a director. She had so many amazing choices here as a director. I see what you're saying, but I wouldn't even think twice about it. She does such an awesome job. Great movie.
It's awesome. I just would never have thought. So that's great. I can't wait to see it. I'm a fan of hers. So.
Next movie, this Nicole Beckwith is the director here, and she directed a movie way back in the day of Sundance called Scotland, PA.
I love Scotland, PA. Yes, as a Shakespeare dude, I love Scotland, PA.
Yeah, great. And they have a certain type of car, and they play the same band through the whole movie. I forgot what they both were.
I can't think of all stuff I meant, but it's an amazing rendition of Macbeth. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a rendition of Macbeth put in a fast food restaurant.
Yes, Macbeth's.
That's right. M. And I had the arches for the M.
So good.
Anyway, so that's kind of a dark comedy. This one's here is it's definitely funny. It's called Together Together, and it has Ed Helms in it. And you see Ed Helms, and you're like, okay, I know. This is basically Andy Bernard grown up, and right, like
sure, you got an idea of what it's probably going to be. Yeah,
but her script writing here and the way she directed this movie was fabulous. I was super sucked in. She really flips the script on the story of your traditional man and woman trying to have a baby. This is a movie about a surrogate, and the surrogate that he has, he is actually the parent that's looking for the surrogate, not the woman. It's just him as a single guy. looking for that. And the girl who plays the surrogate is Patty Harrison. And I don't know what else she is in, but she is infectious as all hell and hilarious. And she plays a surrogate, and he's the single dad. But it's just a situation you don't normally see. And the relationship between them is kind of lovey-dovey and that kind of stuff. But it's not ever to the point. It kind of gets there, but then backs off. She just flips the scripts on some tropes that you're like, oh, I see where this is going. That I really enjoyed. It really stood out, and this was just a great, charming movie that I really, really liked and enjoyed. So look out for that one. That one I'm sure will come out. But Together, highly recommend it. My next one here is One for the Road. This is a film produced by Wong Kar-wai. So right there.
Okay. Yeah.
You already kind of got me. This is in the dramatic section. Produced by him, directed by Boz Poon Praya. And this is a kind of a best friend bucket list kind of movie. Like one of the friends reaches out and lets his friend know that he has terminal cancer and wants to go and do all these things before he dies. So it's one of those types of movies. But imagine Wong Kar-wai having his like paintbrush over something like that.
Yeah, that sounds intense, man.
It was amazing. They build this amazing history and go through all of this stuff. And have all these backstories, and everything just folds in wonderfully. Oh, amazing movie. It was the first movie I watched of the whole fest and loved it. Wong Kar-wai and Boz were awesome. But two friends in Thailand who want to start a bar, and they have all these girl problems and go through their whole life of being friends, and there's some misunderstandings there, and he kind of starts the movie with you see this phone screen with this list of names in it, and he kind of goes and deletes each name as we go through the movie, and you're kind of just checking off these parts. But lovely film, made me cry.
Do you get that same kind of like beautiful artistic direction?
Everything. Yeah, it's gorgeous movie, and a Thai director, which we don't see a ton of Thai directors. So pretty cool.
What about soundtrack? Because we know that's Wong Kar-wai's.
Nothing stands out like off the top of my head, but it's a whole experience and atmosphere like he always helps create.
Because In the Mood for Love is like that when you like there's that one piece of music where you're like, any time of day, if I hear that thing, I'm like, swoon. Just like, oh my God.
Same here. It's on my Spotify. I have a
yeah,
Spotify
it's a
list.
hell of a track, man.
Yes, it is. Cool. Next movie is the movie Mask, directed by Fran Kranz. This is just kind of one of those heavy movies, based around a traumatic event that you're basically stuck in this room with these four people that need to figure some shit out. And that's the entire movie. It easily could be a play. It might have been a play, actually, now that I think about it. But I don't want to get too much into what the event was, but we have it's one of these heavy, well-acted dramas, right? And, we have King Slytherin himself, Jason Isaacs, in this movie. Martha Plimpton, who...
we haven't seen for really a long time, man. Yeah.
But she does an awesome job as his wife, and then... one of your favorites, Ann Dowd,
yes,
and then the actor Reed Birney as well in this, and the four of them in the room just back and forth, and they all have kind of their own agendas, and you don't really know what they're talking about, but you have some ideas here, and there's a massive human emotion in here. It also takes place inside of a church, even though it's in a church, but it's in a room in a church and stuff like that. So I don't want to get too much into what it's about, but it's going to get picked up. It's going to be shown somewhere. Look out for Mass. It's just one of those well-acted, great dramas. Could definitely see some nominations from that one moving forward, but we'll see. Next one, Wild Indian. This is directed by Native American director Lyle Mitchell Corbin Jr. And this is a crime drama kind of in the vein of Taylor Sheridan. Taylor Sheridan is an actor, but he did Hell and High Water, Wind River.
Yeah.
And this movie is called Wild Indian. And again, a shared traumatic event between two friends and kind of their history. But one of these guys is next level bad guy. And and this takes course over a certain amount of years, and you kind of see bits and pieces of their lives. But just one of those really great kind of crime dramas that just reels you in, that like a Taylor Sheridan show or movie does. That's just like you can kind of hope where it's going, but how brutal is this going to get? I'm not sure, but they keep you and it's tense the whole time. Just one of those that I really enjoyed. Next one, On the Count of Three. This is Gerard Carmichael. You know Gerard Carmichael? He's a comedian. He had a few shows. Anyways,
why can I not think of who he is?
Once I put up the picture, you'd be like, oh, that guy.
Okay.
But this is a movie called On the Count of Three, and it's basically two best friends. Man, I'm seeing a theme here with best friends. I don't know.
Yeah, you got like two best friends that have a shared traumatic history.
Yeah.
And one of them does X, Y, or Z.
And then the other one was the bucket list cancer one, and now this one. But this one is two best friends that want to commit suicide together.
Again, bucket list. I think that you're...
Well, they definitely go through it. And I hadn't put this together until I'm talking about it here, but they definitely go through not quite a bucket list. It's more like a fuck it list. And they're just like going through it, just their last day before they before they kill themselves.
All of these ideas remind me of the movie Dream with the Fishes. Do you remember that movie?
Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah, me too. It's got that vibe too. A lot of these you've talked about. Dream with the Fishes keeps bubbling to the surface of my mind.
Interesting. Kelly said in her email that this one, it felt like it was trying too hard to be a Safdie Brothers film. Uncut Gems guys. Which she said isn't her thing. It is, however, my thing. And I do love all of their movies. And On the Count of Three, I could definitely see where she's saying. I laughed quite a bit in this one. It was pretty damn funny. Funnier than a Safdie. I don't know. Those like Uncut Gems and Good Times. They're great movies, but you're just like on the edge of your seat with the nails like the whole time.
Yeah,
where
but
this one,
dude,
this one's more lighthearted.
Right,
so.
But that is your bread and butter. Its humor also has like a really dark edge to it, and that's completely your thing. So like the Safdie brothers, like that whole world is so completely your thing.
For sure, yeah.
Where it might not be for other people, where they might want a little less edge.
Totally get it. Those are kind of the ones that I enjoyed the most, I think, from the dramas. Let me list a few of the other ones that I saw that may be relevant in the future. Marvelous in the Black. This is just a good comedy, sweet drama with Rhea Perlman, of all people, who I haven't seen forever, and she's always been a great actress and funny and everything.
Oh, that's great.
John in the Hole. This one I had high expectations for, but it didn't really live up to the expectations. I think Kelly said the same thing in her email. I was hoping for it to be really interesting. Jockey had some good performances, but it's a movie about a jockey, so it was kind of whatever.
I just like that needs to be the Deep Dive Film School tagline for the poster. Good performances, but it's about a jockey, so whatever.
I mean, it's a fine movie. I have no problem with the movie. Just
right, but you're like I don't
like that engaging.
You're like, finally the jockey movie. What I've always wanted.
It's like The Wrestler, but with a jockey.
Yeah.
But
is it Martin Short and his dramatic turn?
I wish. No, the actor in it's amazing. I think what's his name? Clifton Jr.
Yeah, I'm just thinking stunt casting like The Wrestler, where
sure,
you're like,
yeah. Oh,
finally.
And then the last dramatic competition one that I saw was called Mayday. It was. They did some interesting things. Had an interesting story. You could easily call this movie Feminist Island during World War II, and that was it. But it did some cool things, and I enjoyed parts of it. Some of the stuff that I got into with Next that I liked but didn't love. First Date was a movie. It was pitched as Superbad meets True Romance. Wasn't quite that, but still kind of a fun ride and kind of a silly, wacky horror movie almost.
What's it called again?
First Date. But
That's a hell of a pitch.
I thought so too. That's why I watched it. But it was fine. It wasn't quite what I hoped for. A movie called Strawberry Mansion, where there's a dream auditor and people go to record.
I've been following the makers of Strawberry Mansion on Instagram for the last 2 years.
Really?
Yeah, because they I follow puppeteers. And so, like, the people who made it, like, I've been very curious about what the movie was like.
Yeah, it's interesting. It is, kind of genre bending, and it goes places. But he's like a dream auditor, and he finds this lady who lives in this mansion, and there's no records, so he has to go through, and they actually like go through and tax the things in their dreams, like, oh, there's a wire, like there's a bucket of paint, that's 3 cents tax or whatever. Like,
yeah, and they have like there's a whole rabbit thing in that, isn't there? And they have that
there's
big
definitely
rabbit,
a whole rabbit thing.
Yeah.
It went to some interesting places, and I liked the movie. It wasn't like I was waiting for it to end. Like my next movie, Cryptozoo. This was a movie. So Kelly in her review of Cryptozoo, she said, kind of blew my mind. The animation is literally incredible. It was cool animation, but I could not wait for this movie to end.
Oh no.
It had some of my favorite people. It was one of my most anticipated movies. It had Lake Bell in it and Jason Schwartzman and just a bunch of people that I love that I think, but like, I could not wait for it to end. It was so like 20 minutes in, I'm like, fuck this movie.
What was going on with it? Why?
I don't want to like spoil too much, but you're in this whole dream world where there's like unicorns and all these different kind of animals, and it's all about animal abuse and a variety of different things, and it is all over the place. Just not my bag, not my thing. The animation was awesome, but they lost me like quickly in this movie. It just got too weird, too fast, and like I would be interested to see if you would like it or not, but I hated it, so can't really recommend that one. All right, let's get into documentaries. I'm gonna try and bust through.
You are cruising, my friend.
I'm trying to cruise.
You saw a lot of movies.
I did, but I've been thinking about them all for these last week or so. I'm gonna try and bust through the docs. Some of them are obvious, some of them are cool.
Go for it. I'm just over here drinking beers.
Yeah, you're good. So this might have been one of my favorite movies of the festival. It's in the top 3 for sure. But is this documentary called Users, and really interesting. Never heard of the director before, but she directs this modern day Koyaanisqatsi-esque type movie, and it is stunning, like beautiful, like can't get over how much I thought about every shot that she did in this movie. And the movie is not, it's like Koyaanisqatsi where it's this great music and you follow these weird things about life, and there's definitely that parts to it, but like she's interjecting herself, her family, but the overall themes of the movie outside of just life and this is what we're doing to it, there's kind of an environmental bent here, but like, and there's some kind of VO of her talking, but it's pretty sparse, and you do have a good 15-20 minutes without any dialogue, and you're just watching these amazing shots. But the environmental bent here is the effects of technology on the environment and the things that we're creating because of technology that are doing these things to the world and these different processes and all this stuff. Anyways, I was kind of like, this was one of my last movies of the night, and I had to stay awake because it was so good, and I was so wrapped up into it because there's this overarching theme, but it's also very, very kind of like choose your own adventure of what you think this is about kind of thing, like a Koyaanisqatsi, like what is the director trying to say? And in part she comes and tells you what she's trying to say, and it's very specific when she does that. But, there could be a 3-minute well-lit, beautiful shot of a little boy playing a video game, staring at a screen, and that's what it is. But there's something beautiful about her cinematography and who she is as a photographer. Stunning movie. Love this movie.
Weirdly enough, it makes me think of Life in a Day, the YouTube movie. Yep. Where we're in the same way. It's like your takeaway, which again reminded me very much of Koyaanisqatsi, but you're like, your takeaway could be 100 different things, but also you're left with this impression of just like the world we're in today, right?
Yeah, it is, and that's actually a great segue to my next movie, Life in a Day 2020. They made a new one.
What?
10 years later.
They did?
10 years later.
That was not planned, everybody.
That
I haven't thought about that movie since we reviewed it like
10 years ago.
10 years ago.
So they did a Life in the Day in 2010. Just happened to do it again in 2020, and obviously COVID.
Wow.
And you know.
Oh my God! I bet it's incredible.
Injustices throughout the world, all sorts of things. Man, there's a lot going on here. And
Whoa.
It was awesome. It was just as good. Like, we know this. We know what they're doing. We love this. To give everyone a quick premise about it, but they took one day in 2020 and had everyone submit, or have people submit footage of their day on that day. So, you know, they have the same formula where they start off with kind of the morning time and then birth. So we see all the babies born that day. And
oh my God.
People that, you know, you kind of slowly go through the day and goes through lunchtime, and it goes, you know, and they ask 3 questions that everyone's tries to answer. But it's like,
oh my God, I want to watch them back to back.
Oh, it's promised.
Oh my God, that's amazing. I had no idea you were about to say that.
I know, that's really funny.
When you mentioned it, I was thinking of that movie. Whoa.
Yeah. I wouldn't say Users is quite like Life in a Day, but Life in a Day 2020 is
very much like Life in a Day.
But if you know this, if you've seen this, if you haven't, I highly recommend it. It is just this. It gives you every human emotion you could possibly think of watching it. And this new one, they did it again. They hit it out of the park. Amazing. Movie, this next documentary, Misha and the Wolves. Holy crap, this was an awesome movie. It looked like an Errol Morris movie. Like, it was so well done, but it's this fascinating story of this Holocaust survivor who had their story go like huge. And her name's Misha. But she had a falling out with her publisher. And throughout the movie, we find out that, you know, like the first 30 minutes, I'm like, why do I give a shit what the publisher has to say? This person is only in it for the money, especially like you're making money off of the Holocaust. Like, why do I care what this person has to say? And then you kind of figure out why, and you're like, oh shit, this is crazy. So I won't spoil it, but it's prime for an HBO documentary. Awesome.
You don't have to say anything. My prediction is she wasn't there. That's my prediction.
You're very insightful. All right. Next movie is All Light Everywhere. This is a heavy doc all about the advancement of technology, but they really focus in on like technology with police and police body cams and how they're being used.
Yeah, okay.
And all this stuff. So really interesting take, and again, really heady. Like, the B-roll in this movie is wild. And it's crazy. So look out for that one. Rodney Asher, the guy who did Room 237 and The Nightmare, he's back with another movie about virtual simulation called A Glitch in the Matrix. I recommend this one if you like his wacky ass conspircy.
Does it make you lose sleep like The Nightmare does?
No.
Okay,
this
good.
One's really, really fascinating because the people that are the premise have truly grabbed onto virtual simulation, and they're some character, whether it's like, you know, like a you know, it's like a almost like a gorilla inside the spacesuit with water inside. And
yeah. Like their avatar becomes themselves. Yeah.
But that's who we're interviewing through the whole movie, are people, and they're real voices, but their avatars are the only thing on screen the whole time, so we never actually get to see the people. That. Really cool stuff. And you know, they do get into the Matrix and how you know what that means, and how people, you know, start to go crazy about these, you know, just like he did with The Shining. They go crazy with these theories about what's real and what's not.
Right.
And, you know, if this is a simulation that we're living in, what does that mean? Does it matter? You know, a variety of things. And really, probably his most fun doc, I think, so far.
That's
and
good,
really
because I have a bone to pick with him because of The Nightmare. I lost a lot of sleep because of that.
Well, it's not to pick with him, just like how, you know, that he's a good director.
That he's a good director. That's the bone. That's the bone I have to pick. Asshole.
two other more kind of maybe politically charged docs that were fine. In the Same Breath was directed by a director from Wuhan who was there when COVID started and kind of talking about those early days of COVID. Really interesting doc. I believe that got purchased by HBO, so you should look out for that one. It was kind of your basic doc, but really interesting subject matter. And then another one called At the Ready about this school in Texas that lives on the border of these high school kids who get trained in school to be like border patrol and all of these, government agencies and stuff like that. It's pretty wild, to see kind of where they're at. And there's a whole struggle because a lot of them are Mexican immigrants that have come across. And
first generation.
There's an internal battle, but that was really interesting. Going to end the podcast off with this one, though, or these three, I should say. These are the final three. These were the obvious docs that I had to watch.
Okay.
And it was Street Gang, the Sesame Street doc, based off the book. It's amazing. It's so good. Like, oh my God, you're gonna love it. You have to watch it yesterday. It's so
I know,
awesome.
I know.
It's
so on my radar, Palcher. You have no idea.
I'm sure you've read the books.
I mean, look, I got. You
got puppets back.
I got puppets back here.
But what I love that they did about this documentary is that they made it about just the first 20 years or so, where they really like dug into everything, and it kind of created all the major themes and elements of the show that lived on that are still living on to this day.
I mean, dude, it's like the nonprofit crew from the electric company. You got Jim Henson and his bunch of hippy dippy dudes, and then you got a handful of child psychologists.
Yep.
Meeting of the minds. Brilliant stuff. I can't wait to see it.
It's amazing, and they focus on probably three major people, but I'll let you watch the doc to see which three it is, because it's worth it. And the Q&A was awesome. Of course, that was a big reason. But I'm such a sucker for just Jim Henson and all of those people and just everything that they did and their intentions, everything. I've just always been a huge fan.
You love media creation stories. That's one of your biggest things is like they made a thing. And it was a movie or a TV show, and they all came together and they did it. Like that's like your catnip.
And then the next one was Edgar Wright, his directorial debut for a documentary called The Sparks Brothers about the band Sparks, a band I don't think I'd ever heard of. Have you ever heard of Sparks?
I don't think so.
Well, they've been going for like 30 years. And they have 25 albums. And
oh my God! What?
The amount of footage and the amount of things that they influenced is mind blowing. I had no idea, but it's almost one of those searching for Sugar Man things where they were bigger in other countries.
Oh,
so
okay.
As Americans, we didn't really know, but they're from America. Anyways, fascinating story. But there's so many influences of their music and there's so much that you had no idea that they influenced. It's fascinating.
So we should expect reissues of all their vinyl within the next year.
But the two brothers are amazing and fun to talk to, and there's so much footage. Like they were on all of these shows, they were everywhere. But I hear elements of the Cars, Duran, like tons of great 80s pop music.
Wow.
Like they were all over the place. And it's Edgar Wright, so he can get pretty much whoever he wants to talk about these guys. And so
totally.
Cavalcade of cameos talking about how much they love the Sparks Brothers. And then like 2 hours into it, you're just like, fuck, why have I never heard of these? It's one of those things. And then you throw Edgar Wright and his fun, crazy, fast-paced editing around it. He did an amazing job. He was awesome in the Q&A as well, which is really fun. Last movie.
Woo! This has been a roller coaster, Palcher.
You're welcome. 25 movies at Sundance.
My God. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Last one here. This is one I saw. I wasn't able to catch on opening night, but it won an award. It was Questlove's movie Summer of Soul, about basically the Black Woodstock that happened in Harlem with all of these soul bands like Stevie Wonder, Nina Simone, and just all these amazing artists that they hosted in a Harlem park over the course of a summer. And it was these artists would come and they'd never seen this many black people together in one place and enjoying themselves. And all of these great musicians are playing all this stuff, and they went through almost everything. It's kind of a concert film in a way, for sure, because you do see quite a few performances and stuff like that. But it was also about like what's going on in the background and what's happening.
Did Questlove direct it?
Yeah, he did.
Wow, cool.
It's amazing. But like they filmed the whole concert, and then the footage sat in a closet for 50 years, and he got it and turned it into.
Oh
this.
my God.
And for a long time it was called the Black Woodstock movie until
Dude.
they came up with Summer of Soul. But
He's a talented dude for sure. So that's awesome.
And such a sweet guy too, and just like awesome dude.
Yeah.
So there you go. That was my Sundance. I got through a lot this year. I
Oh
hope
my
you guys
God.
enjoyed it. That was a lot of talking.
That was a
me,
lot of
so-
talking. I guess next episode I'll do most of the talking.
Yeah, please, could you?
Always.
All right, well, thanks everyone. Next week we're gonna continue our unusual musicals festival with Dancer in the Dark, the Laws of Ontario movie. Oh, I can't wait to talk about that one.
Me too.
Please subscribe. Please like in all the spaces and places where you find good media. Excited to talk to you guys next week.
Thanks, Palcher, for all that you did. My God, go take
You're
a breather. Go take a breather. Go take a nap, and we'll see you guys next week.
Now watch those movies in like six months.
There you go. Bye, you guys.